Okay, so sound system is okay. How do you want me to go forward? Do you want me to?
Sure, you can share your screen, sir, and then we are good to start.
Okay, 1 second, and let me do that. Okay. I don't know how do I make it bigger. Okay, got it.
Okay, yeah.
Is that okay?
Yes, sir. It's not in slideshow mode, but we can start.
Can I, 1 second, give me one more second.
Yeah. So again, as Dr. Taslimarif sets up the presentation, I'm very happy to welcome you all for years for Crescent Innovation Incubation Council, that is Life Sciences and Industry 4.0, and our aim for conducting and also we also support student ideas. So there are about 21 student startups as well in CIIC. Along with that, we've raised a little over 70 lakhs in terms of government grants. So government across India, multiple governments in terms of state and central have been very supportive in funding our startups through grants. And also investors have funded over 39 crores to our startups. So today's webinar is about CCAM's C-CIDA Accelerator supporting, which supports COVID larger impact. And we have with us Dr. Taslimarif. In California, San Francisco. He's also gone. He's also underwent training in management for biotech and innovation at UC Santa Cruz, UC Berkeley, and UC San Francisco. He has extensive experience in the field of research and currently is heading the C-Camp Accelerator. Over to Dr. Saiyed. And
yeah. Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone. I'm delighted to be here for this particular CIIC seminar. I think this is a fantastic opportunity while we are all struggling with this humongous crisis of COVID-19 and, getting to engage with our daily activities as well as take on this challenge. A great opportunity for us to share with you all how some of our efforts from CCAM are impacting our fight, our collective national fight against COVID-19. I would like to thank Dr. Parvez Alam, who has very kindly invited me, and as well as other management team, who has arranged everything very smoothly. And I'm delighted that we have a good number of participants to share and discuss things. So just to begin, I'll give a very quick introduction about the organization so that you can get a perspective. So I work at CCAMP, which is based, headquartered at Bangalore, but has operations through its innovations across India. CCAMP has, one would say, a larger mandate is to build a thriving ecosystem for high-end research and innovation. That is a single point agenda that we have at CCAMP in terms of build a high-end ecosystem. And for that, this is a current view of what we have at CCAM. We are connected with 105,500 startups across India, out of which 150 are been our portfolio startups, which are very, very exciting. 75 of them have now new patents have been filed and towards granting. 15 products are in market from CCAM startups, and many more, and 450 crores of follow-on funding that has happened to that. Before I actually go into more details, I wanted to say that so CCAM is part of a large cluster called Bangalore Life Science Cluster, which also has other two members, that is National Center for Biological Sciences, a top-notch academic institute, which is a center of Tata Institute of Fundamental Research and doing phenomenal work in fundamental biological science research in India. And the second institute, which is called INSTEM, that is Institute for Stem Cell Biology and Regenerative Medicine, the only federally funded, centrally funded stem cell research institute in India, and doing really exciting work in terms of understanding of stem cell biology and building capabilities for potential application of stem cell biology for human healthcare. So with this background, we are set up around with a campus of around 1,800 people, out of which the cluster has around 80% of them are of scientific expertise, and 20% are the admin non-scientific staff. And that has given us a very exciting work in terms of looking at how we want to support high-end research and innovation in the area of life sciences, which could be healthcare, which again would have, diagnostics, therapeutics, prophylactic, that is vaccination, digital health, maternal child health, and so on. Then you have you have agriculture, where you have broad areas within agriculture, and agriculture and allied, which also has animal sciences and other animal biotechnology and others, which are also very, very exciting areas. Plus, we then go on to environmental health using synthetic biology and other approaches, and see how biology impacts larger environment as well. So we have a very broad view, and within life sciences, specific or agnostic view rather, in terms of a particular sector. And the only thing that we are trying to do is to identify good science and see how that science can be supported further. So our broad innovation efforts today, if I were to share, we have extensive efforts in maternal child health, antimicrobial resistance, innovations for public health, agriculture innovations, AI-driven biotech, affordable health tech, healthcare, and as one would say, clean tech. So these are different areas where we actually work, and we try to work together and build capabilities with some focus on it. What we have is the ability to have early funding. We work with different government agencies to partner with their programs, both grant in aid and equity fund programs. The supporting agencies which we are supported are DBT, BIRAC, Niti Aayog, AIM, MIT, Government of Karnataka, Department of ITBT, and Agriculture, Department of Agriculture, and a few more departments of central government and state government who support our ability and partner with us. We also have incubation program, which has a plug and play system. And we also have a startup advancement program, which starts after the startup has shown proof of concept, and one builds on that aspect. Now, what I wanted to share, and I hear in the comments that the audio is not very good, so I try to be a bit loud. So these are a few startups which are associated and funded by CCAMP, and they are now really top-notch startups across India. This includes startup like Bugworks, which I'm circling around right now, which is India's only startup across all sectors, which has been linked as the world's top 35 game-changing innovations. And the only startup from India, be it bio, be it mechanical, be it aerospace, anything. And we are very excited that they have been 2009, they have been in the world's top game-changing innovation in top 35. What they work on possibly discovering new antibiotic, for gram-negative bacteria, which has now causing a huge issue in terms of antimicrobial resistance across the world. We have another startup, I'll give you another example, like C6 Energy, which is working extensively in agriculture, which combines ocean biotechnology with agriculture using algae. And they have been now in the business and have have an extensive turnover and have been funded by previously by Tata Capital. Extensive science, the products are towards increasing the capacity or increasing the crop production by up to 50% and also preventing the infections for agriculture. And this is really one of its kind. They were also the number 2 in terms of world's top innovation award called Agro Award from UK. They were number 2 in that couple of years back. Just switching the sides, Pandorum is a company which is building stem cell based organoids, small liver outside the body, and they are doing fantastic work for last few years and have been able to build different models for liver and also for cornea. And they are now based out of US as well as in Bangalore. They have been funded by the Indian Angel Network, where they also got funded by Flipkart founder, as well as with Hero founder, Sunil Munjal and BD Bansal, both of them. And that shows on to say that if you do well, there is very exciting funding, even science-based innovation. If I go and quickly move a few more, where you can say String Bio is another very exciting example of fantastic work happening in terms of synthetic biology, where they have been able to use microbes to convert methane, which is a bio-warming gas, which causes global warming, into non-human food. So they use microbes to consume the gas and then convert it further. And that is a very exciting work. They already have product in market, and they have been recently funded a couple of months back by Indian and international funders. Just to quickly tell you about the A10 porous, which is what you would call it as a pure play of therapeutics, a small molecule drug thing for Niemann-Pick disease, which is a very rare disease. They got licensing for a full licensing term, which was equivalent to $125 million from a US firm. A very exciting work they have done. I'll tell you one more example, Koyo Labs, in detail in the next session of the talk, to tell you how excellent their 2 products are. So if you can hold on to that thought for now. And the last but not the least, another company which is in news for last 4 or 5 days is iStem, which is building, again, stem cell based, induced pluripotent stem cell based cell cultures, where they can use them for vision disorders, like genetic or disorders like retinitis pigmentosa and others. So they have been able to build those stem cells based approaches and the adults, the differentiated cells for potential implantation, and they look very, very good. Meanwhile, they also have done something very exciting for COVID, and I'll share that with you for both of them. There are several more examples who are doing well, but I will, in the interest of time, I will possibly talk about them a bit later. So this is a more or less an old slide, but what we have is that we have funded 40 odd startups very early, and they have now been able to gain very high amount of funding from private investors. These are a few startups I talked about. C6 is an agricultural startup. Achira does phenomenal work in terms of microfluidics big diagnostics. Pandorum, as I mentioned, is doing stem cell organoids for mini liver and cornea. Theramit, I didn't mention, I missed to mention, but it's a biologics company, has been funded phenomenally well for immuno-oncology in cancer biologics. Epigenics is very exciting firm for which is building consumables, reagents, and kits, and compete with international companies like Roche for specific assays. And Koyo Labs, I will talk about in terms of medical devices. There are also very exciting and very good examples where how biotech companies are now being called as the best innovators by the annual Economic Times Award. They call it as an innovation, and that used to go to e-commerce companies. But now the science, because of the rich science that the startups work with, we from India, from Bangalore, from Chennai, from Hyderabad, there are really good innovations coming out, which can have both feasibility as a business and impact to society. We have global collaborations to make sure that the global perspectives are built for startups. And that is something that we continue to do with European and US and other countries as well. Coming to COVID, very quickly, I'll take 10 minutes to talk about this, not more. So as in March, mid-March came, we realized, all of us realized that India was also prone to this global challenge, COVID, where we found that even most sophisticated countries like Europe, like US, were not able to, control the spread and minimize the mortality, the deaths that the COVID cost. We know what happened in Italy. We know what happened in UK. We know what happened in Spain. We know what happened in US. And that a lot of that happened because this healthcare system did not have enough products to prepare against this real big challenge of COVID that was taught. The challenge was the same in India. The only difference was that we possibly got affected a bit late than compared to many other countries, and definitely lockdown was useful. But one gap was there in mid-March, and the gap was clearly that we did not have enough healthcare products, be it rapid diagnostic kits. We still do not have enough rapid diagnostic kits to test large percentage of our country. We have, think about it, we are 1.43 to 4 billion people. Even if we want to do 10% of the test, that would include around 14 mil, one would say that 140 million people that we'll have to do, and that's a very large number. So to be able to do that, we needed our own innovations to respond to this, because the kits were not coming from international or overseas. The ventilators were not available, which were usually coming from overseas companies, from medical device companies. The PPEs were not available. The personal protective equipment were not available. And many other things were not available. And hence, it was realized that we need to do something from ground up, from India, and identify innovations which possibly are nearly there or could make an impact, but we have to handhold them and do that. So this accelerator was launched by CCAMP and its partners, and we are very, very thankful to our partners to actually who combined the force, and we built this collaboration to launch the accelerator. And within a month, we got, as one would call it, around 1,100 innovation submission. And that was a very large number to work with. And that's where we realized that we'll have to assess each one of them very, very carefully. All of them were good, but we had to identify the ones who were very, very close to the implementation. This was not a funding accelerator. This was identifying the proximity to the implementation and see what is minimum that is required to do to get them there. And so out of 11 ones, we actually chose around 31 innovations which we thought would do us some work. So I'll give you a very quick view of some of them, not all of them, but I thought I'll give you a very quick one. And I'm very excited about a few of them. So let's start with this first one. So this first Star Week came on the first week of April. We brought this out that these are very high potential innovations. And if I tell you, Koyo Labs actually is doing phenomenal. What do they have? They have two products which actually are working very, very well. First product is what you would call it as a web care device. That device actually combines with ventilator and prevents death, which is caused because of the pneumonia when a person is on ventilator. There's a For friends who do not know, just to give us a little bit of statistics, this causes a very high number. The ventilator-associated pneumonia causes very high number of mortality because a patient goes to a hospital for another, ailment, but on ventilator they now acquire a secondary infection, which is caused through the trickling of our saliva to our lungs, and hence the pneumonia. And old age patients, actually we lose them because of this VAP. Koyo had already, for 3-4 years back, has been building a device which could prevent ventilator-associated pneumonia, and they have now that device approved as a secretion device for ventilator from US FDA, and now it is in market in India in US FDA, and they are now supplying to a few state governments and being used to prevent death for people who are on ventilator, so that they do not acquire ventilator-associated pneumonia and mortality related to that. So that is a very exciting work that Koyo has done. They also have another device which is called a SARS, or what you would call it as a CPAP device, which is nothing but a device which supports respiratory capability, and they are now putting this as a non-invasive ventilator. And just to give you good news, friends, this particular product has been also launched 2 weeks back. So we're very excited that both products are now in market. Aviantra also does a non-invasive ventilator, and we are hoping that they will be able to get necessary support and get to market very soon. Coming to diagnostics, as you would know, in Tamil Nadu and in other places, there's a huge need for diagnostics. Still, we do not have enough. If I or you want to go and do diagnostics, we can't do that because it is a very controlled, approval that requires for diagnosis, because we do not have enough kits. So we need more and more innovators from India to build diagnostic tests, get it approved by regulatory system, that is ICMR approved institutes, and then get that to the Drug Control General of India, CDSCO, to get the manufacturing license and manufacturing, millions, so that all of us can then, the large part of the population get tested. So we have better control in terms of spread and all. So these two companies have built ground up. COSARA is a joint venture between a US-based company and a Indian company. They now have approved diagnostic in India, tested in one of the ICMR institute, and Amplygene is waiting for it. So both of them would be a humongous support for all of us to get more products more testing to market. Hike was also very exciting work, which was a small media that can actually be on your clothes, or more importantly, on your mask. So to make a normal mask into antiviral mask. Interestingly, that was a Switzerland collaboration they had, and they 2 years back or a year and a half back, they have done detailed data on viral study and how the viral titer comes down when they put the chemical on a fabric. So these were a very exciting thing that came out in the first week. I'll just go to the second week. Sorry about the, I think some sort of structuring has gone bad. We brought out more with more studies. We got more out of respiratory devices, Aerobiosis, which is building a full-fledged ventilator, invasive ventilator, hopefully in some days out, and another ventilator from Biodesign Labs. We brought them out, and they are now being supported through different schemes. Another important measure that came out was how can we use digital health to do vital monitoring from remote, like from far in ICU setting, where your pulse rate, your respiratory rate, your saturation and temperature. A health worker, a doctor or nurse do not need to do it on patients, but it can be measured from far away. So these 4 companies have now devices which would be like wearable, which can be in ICU, and all those data can go to this central place, and doctors can see it regularly, but a healthcare worker do not need to go near to the patient and get exposed to this patients who have the infection. So this is another very interesting innovations that they have come, and that has been worked out. There were some preventives which were very scientifically worked. Both were approved by Ayush, which could control the surface sanitization. Omics, Gen, and Yogi were very, very exciting. There were surface sanitizers who were being used. Leafbox, Biomonita, and Clensta were doing very good work in terms of a surface sterilization based on UV or other means in terms of hygiene that Clensta does. Leafbox and Biomonita also has capability that they are testing for virus. They can reduce the viral load in an environment. So let's say this room I am sitting or you are sitting, if that machine is there, it can bring down the microbial load as well as the viral load. Think about it, if this machine goes to hospitals, that would be phenomenal to reduce the load of virus that are floating around us. So that is being tested. And then there was a need for what you would call it as the viral samples, as well as the diagnostic devices to travel in terms of cold chain. So Black Frog and Tessol were identified to support that. So all in all, I am coming to 27 to 28 minutes of the time. So I'm just to, all in all, we had two more week of this. We actually identified 31 stars for impact out of 1,100 submissions that were submitted, and 17 of them are already in the field. The most important aspect about this that I am excited about is that India, because of the phenomenal work done by the government to start innovation ecosystem way back 8 to 10 years back in biological sciences and life sciences, and support to several places, including CIIC, to support startups. A lot of the startups who had the scientific capability, who had the innovation capability, could turn around their work, make small change, small tweak, a kind of pivot their scientific work, and within a month or two could build a technology, validate a technology, get approval for the regular technology, and now they are in the market. So that is a very exciting time, and that can go in short span as something that would be a big silver lining while we have a big adversity here in terms of the innovation ecosystem for life science in India. So I think I just wanted to share this phenomenal work. A lot of this work, rather most of this work, has been done by my colleagues and our collaborators. My colleagues have spent complete month of work from morning to evening, and these are not one, two. We had a team of 14 to 15 people who, from their homes, whole day we were connected over different calls, phones, and all that. We were assessing this. We were then in touch with startups to understand what is required, and then work with government agencies for funding, for helping them with regulatory approval, for helping them with some sort of collaboration for testing and so on. So that was done. A lot of credit of this goes to my very phenomenal colleagues. With that, I will stop here. I've reached 30 minutes of time. That was my target, but I'll be very happy to take questions. If somebody wants to reach out to me, this is my email ID, ccamp@ccamp.res.in. If people follow Twitter, I'm there on Twitter for Taslimarif, or the CCAM is on CCAM_Bangalore, and the website is ccam.res.in. So thank you so much for this opportunity to share this very exciting work the Accelerator has done from most of the work, as I said, from my colleagues and collaborators, and I'm happy to take questions. Thank you so much, and thank you for this opportunity again.
Participants, can you share it? If you have any questions, please do share them. Sir, at the bottom of the screen, there will be a few places to share questions under the Q&A section. So we have a few participants who would want to share questions. Probably in another 5 minutes time, they will be putting in the questions.
Surely. So I have Q&A in front of me. So while questions happen, I think I must say that Dr. Parvez Alam was also constantly in touch with me, and we were discussing few of the startups which are associated with CIIC, and we were discussing on a weekly basis how those startups could be supported as well, and we had extensive discussions on that too. So I must congratulate him for taking the case of CIIC associate startups for an effort like Accelerator, which was pan-India, and see how those startups from CIIC could also be a part of this and be supported for the further on. So I just thought I'll share that prospect.
Sir, so we have a question. Any application developed for real-time monitoring of patients?
Correct. So I would say that in terms of real-time monitoring, as I mentioned, the real-time monitoring of vitals, we have 4 startups. And one of the startup just got funded yesterday by the philanthropic fund of ACT, if you know, Action COVID team, which was from the venture capitalists and philanthropists had set up a 100 crore fund. So yesterday I got the good news that cardiac design labs are funded by them now partially. So there are 4 companies which have this real-time monitoring, which can, or in terms of remote monitoring of patients for their vitals, so that the health worker, doctors, nurses do not need to be go to patient just to get their vitals. So that is being developed, and it is available to be implemented.
Sir, so another question by Mr. Arvind. So he asks, do I have to be part of an incubator to apply for a grant?
Not at all. There are several opportunities to apply for the grant. This 1,100 was not C-Camp incubated startups. This was a need that India had. So there was no affiliation. We had thought of everything, who everyone was allowed to come in, and they were then screened, filtered, discussed with them, and then taken forward for different funding agencies, support, and so on. So it was not necessary at all.
Okay, sir, another person is asking, how is the scale of manufacturing achieved in these cases? How is the process of setting up of manufacturing facilities expedited?
Exactly. I think that's again an important question. Scale is a very important thing. So we have moved to phase 2, which you would call, which if you see, we have moved to phase 2 of this accelerator, which we call it deployment scale up, where we are working with ventilators to build more and more of ventilators, with providing support from different spaces, like AMTZ, with engineering industry which is coming out and giving their resources. So scale up is happening for ventilator, respiratory ones. We are also supporting mask, or a specific antiviral chemical based mask. We are supporting them. We are also supporting what you would call it as rapid diagnostic kits manufacturers to build together large capacity by collating reagents and so on. So a lot, as this question is right, now what we need is scale up, and that's what we are helping in terms of manufacturing and so on.
Sir, also Mr. Chandrasekhar wants to know, can they share new proposals for review right now? Is it still too early or late to submit new ideas?
Considering that we have largely, the idea was to within a month pick the best lot, we have actually done that. Nonetheless, if you think there is something that is completely close to deployment and doesn't, it would be there. It is idea level or POC level. We may not be able to support now. It has to be very close to the implementation. So if it's very strong candidature, please do go to the website and you can submit it.
Okay, sir. And another participant wants to know, what is the post-COVID scenario of India over China in the American market? This is maybe if we can answer it particular to the biotechnology space, then maybe it might make sense to the session.
Surely. So I think this may be true in many, but India typically, we have realized that we have been heavily reliant on most of the things in terms of high-end innovation and consumables, which were coming from overseas. So post-COVID, I think that we will possibly, because we had to do it, and we had to build our own products, we had to build our own consumables. I think you will see a significant change in terms of the mindset for people to rely within India rather than outside India. That is one. The second is that there'll be a large confidence in the ecosystem for funders, because now they will see that there can be innovations coming out of India for startups or for the entrepreneurs. They will also say that yes, if I do it well, if I run out, the system will support me, and the regulatory who will be also able to see that yes, if it is built in India, there can be a good quality, and I can have I can be there could be expedited regulatory approvals for that.
Sir, another question is how CCAMP as an entity helps in applying for grants. Do they take over the complete process, or is it just the initial part of it?
No, I think we do not have bandwidth. You can imagine how big the numbers were, and we were constantly in touch with central funding agencies, state government funding agencies, as well as others. So I think largely what would be a good idea is that we support them, we guide them, we put a word to say that this is the right approach for you. Go ahead and do that. Of course, every funding is on merit basis. We can guide them, advise them, but I think they have to go through a proper funding proposal mechanism.
Okay, sir, prediction model can be developed for normal or severe case in order to. So, can there be a prediction model which can be developed from normal to severe case
I
measures?
think I think there are people working on it. I may not have the right, complete answer on it, but as far as I understand, there are people who are working. Many people are working on modeling for many things. People are working on the infection spread model, the curve model. People are working on different other models. But in terms of to take preventive steps, I think Europe has some models coming up. India, there are attempts to do that, but we need more and more data. We need more and more testing to be done to actually have a factual, data to be put in the model and validate the model. But yes, there are models being developed as we speak.
Okay, we have a few more questions. So another one is how is the regulatory approval process expedited? How are the different stakeholders contributing in the process of quality testing and assurance?
Surely. So I think we all must identify and appreciate amazing work done by many government agencies, both at the central and state level. They have actually opened all the doors of dialogue, of direct approach, of approvals in terms of, but without compromising on the quality. They have actually worked day in day out, expanded the number of hours, expanded their own capabilities, bandwidth, and so on to do that. So they have a lot of work that they have done to ensure that there will be expedited regulatory approvals. They would have meetings every other day to assess the proposal for regulatory and then work out what is required, respond them back saying that do the ABCD. Once you have ABCD, come back fast. If you need any help or do ABCD, these are the things you can do as well. So that has been very, very nice. In terms of how are the different stakeholders contributing the process of quality testing and assurance. Quality testing, as you know, that can be done in both based on what you are testing, both public and private organizations, and there are regulatory guidelines for that. So there are several government. So as you know that government institutes, ICMR institutes are now doing a lot of testing, including some of them are doing diagnostic validation for kits as well, not only ICMR Institute but others. So they are all contributing in terms of the quality of the healthcare innovations or inventions which are coming through.
Okay, sir, and Mr. Sayyed Bukhari wants to say that he would want to invite high growth ventures into the Middle East in the biotechnology space.
No, absolutely. I think it's a very, interesting area to look at because, as I mentioned, we have collaboration in US and Europe and so on. There are different geographies who have very good opportunity in terms of growth, and that could be very exciting geography to look at in terms of growth for and scale up of startups.
Okay, sir, another question, I do not know if it's relevant, but is COVID a man-made disaster?
Difficult conspiracy theory, a long tea or coffee session on it.
Okay, next one is what type of protective equipment we may need to protect ourselves while going to regular office. If you choose to answer, you can answer.
Yeah, I think this may not be directly aspect, but this is just like another human being. I can say that we need to have going forward, at least while we have complete control of the spread, we'll have to ensure that we are not exposed to the aerosol based or the what droplet based viruses or surface based viruses and so on. So we have to ensure that we are completely protected by that in terms of the aerosol, droplet, and surface based viruses around us.
Sir, also one of the participants says on COVID-19 is going to have an impact on our routine life for a long term. What kind of products will be the new consumer market which require large scale production?
I think it's a very relevant question. It is going to be a long-term impact because I think slowly it will change the lifestyle for many people while it will happen, offices, how offices will work and so on. So I think the products that I think consumer market would be, a lot of products which would actually allow you to protect yourselves from the previous question answer that I mentioned would be the first line of consumer products that people would like to buy with minimum exposure from others and so on. Because I think people will become much more conscious about their personal hygiene, their personal space around them, hygiene of the space around them, and so on. So those are the consumer products I would say that would be the first line that will go out and be of large scale production.
Another participant asked, any official website working on analysis of COVID-19 data? If yes, where do I get that?
Official website working to analyze. So I think there are let's say in terms of data, there is PIB, the Information Bureau, Public Information Bureau, that provides a lot of data in terms of the national data and the other aspects as well. Those are the one data that is kind of being set up. I'm sure there are more data being developed otherwise as well. If I may not have the answer for it, but I'm happy to share with you separately.
Okay. So are there any antibiotics which will be effective for COVID-19?
Oh, antibiotics.
Or in the sense, is there any research happening in that space?
So I don't know. So there are several antibiotics, but actually, as you know, antibiotics are being usually drafted for bacteria many a times. And this particular envelope virus is RNA virus is a bit different from there. So people must have tested it. We haven't seen any success broadly, other than work that has happened for previous drugs like remdesivir or some people as hydroxychloroquine and otherwise. But I think idea is that this is a completely different organism than the bacterial work. So likelihood is it's not there, unlike there is an antibiotic which works through indirect pathways to impact this.
Okay, sir. And the last question which we have is, what are the grants which are open for application for startups who are not incubated anywhere?
So I think all the grants are open to everyone. It doesn't matter you incubated or not, because going forward, it would be the innovation spaces or incubators should not necessarily impose on or rather look at the physical incubation, but support and be enabler of startups from where they are and let them do well from there and then advise them, handhold there and so on. So I think there are several funding opportunities which have been available from government. I'll just name a few. DBT BIRAC had a few funding opportunities. DBT had, BIRAC had, DST had, DST's entrepreneurship arm had Kavach, TDB had, FICCI had something if I'm not wrong, and several others had funding opportunity. So, and Marico and then some other philanthropy foundations also had some funding opportunity. None of them require you to be an incubator.
Okay, participants, I'm sharing a rating for the session. If you can just rate the session from 1 star to 5 star, it will help us understand how effective the session was. The poll will appear on your screen right now. Request everybody to give your vote. Sir, so thank you so much, sir. We are come to the end of the session. We received a pretty good feedback from the participants, and we appreciate for your efforts towards combating COVID and essentially supporting them.
No, thank you so much. It looks like I just passed, so that's good. So thank you so much. A good opportunity. I thank the CISC and everyone who joined the call. I hope that we just took, I think, 40 odd minutes, but wanted to share this exciting effort that we have been a part of. And I'm sure all of you who are also working to build innovations that can impact lives around you, not necessarily related to COVID. I think these are very exciting times in India, and good opportunities are there, including opportunities at CIIC. So please do leverage this, because these are the hubs which can enable you to and give you the springboard to the next level. So please feel free to reach out to us also on the web, on the slide that it is there, and happy to help the colleagues from here as well. Thank you all.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, participants. So once you voted, you may leave the session. We'll share for forthcoming details. Thank you so much, sir. I'll end the webinar now.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.